There seems to be some confusion or political maneuvering regarding what the voters approved in the 2019 bond election. Some city council members are inaccurately claiming that the voters demanded a parking garage in historic Old Town Scottsdale to be located on Brown Avenue.
70% of voters demanded that we add parking to this location.
I think the operative word here is historic. Have you seen this map of Old Town Scottsdale? It delineates the boundary of historic Old Town, located within the larger area of Old Town. The city has specific restrictions on what can be built in this historic neighborhood. A concrete parking garage does not currently exist there, nor is a 3-story garage within the design concept for this area. Now, let's go back in time and look at all of the items that were included on the ballot that the voters saw when they authorized the city to issue $319 million worth of bonds in 2019. There were 3 questions on the ballot that included a total of 168 itemized projects for consideration. Question 1 included 61 items listed. Question 2 included 63 items, one of which was number 63 for parking in Old Town. And question 3 included 44 items. So, would you conclude that the voters agreed with every single one of the 168 items on the ballot and singled out item 63 to demand funding for parking in Old Town? Probably unlikely. But let's continue. There were 17 people who wrote supporting arguments for question 2 in the voter guide. Out of those 17, only 1 person mentioned funding for parking structures. Even Barry Graham's comments supporting question 2 do not mention parking structures. Isn't it odd that one of the most vocal advocates for parking in Old Town, a gallery owner on Main Street, didn't even mention parking in his ballot argument supporting question 2? This exclusion might lead you to believe that the public was not concerned about parking at that time, when, according to Councilman Graham, the voters, quote, demanded parking in the 2019 bond election. Here is the full text of the ballot language in the voter guide for question 2. Design, acquire, construct, reconstruct, improve, furnish, and equip. Municipal facilities and improvements, infrastructure facilities and improvements, public parking facilities and improvements. A yes vote on question 2 would authorize the city to issue bonds to pay for the 63 items listed on the ballot. There was never any specific location for the parking in Old Town listed on the ballot or in the voter guide for item 63. At the staff presentation on March 18th, it was also confirmed that the ballot language did not include a specific location for the parking structures to be built in Old Town.
Okay, so the bond project 63, build parking structures in Old Town Scottsdale. The first 2 slides are just giving some information on the language in the bond ballot, and highlighted, it's a little hard to see, but highlighted is the part that pertains to the public parking, and it says public parking facilities and improvements. So when residents went to vote, they were simply voting on public parking facilities and improvements.
She next discusses the public outreach process, where the city held open house meetings to inform voters of the list of items on the ballot that were proposed for the bond funds. And as previously stated, there was no specific location listed on the ballot for Old Town parking.
When we went through our outreach process, we had bond project fact sheets that were used for each project during outreach. We used these at open houses. They were on our city website. And again, just highlighting in the project summary that the project was to build parking structures in Old Town Scottsdale. And then for the project location, it was listed that the project will build parking in Old Town Scottsdale at locations to be determined.
So any claim that the voters demanded a 3-story parking garage on historic Brown Avenue that would replace the farmers market is false. Based on media articles written at the time, in October 2019, the issues on the ballot that were most important to residents were Westworld renovations, overhaul of the Civic Center, new swimming pools, repair Vista del Camino Park, a new fire department training facility, and renovate the Via Linda police station. Nowhere in the press was any sense of urgency for parking structures in Old Town. At the March 18th meeting, why were the residents prevented from speaking about their concerns with building a parking garage in an historic neighborhood? Why were the representatives from the farmers market stopped from speaking on the issue and were redirected to speak at the general public comment section of the meeting? The business owners and retail merchants in the area are opposed to the location of the parking garage, which will disrupt their livelihoods. Representatives from the old Adobe Mission and the livery stable are both horrified by this plan. But Councilmember Graham keeps insisting that the residents demand a parking garage in this historic location.
When the voters approved $20 million and they demanded we build another parking structure in Old Town,
Question 2 of the 2019 bond authorizes funds to include acquisition of land or interests therein necessary for any such purpose. So the mayor is well within the intention of the bond to explore options for parking in Old Town that could include purchasing land. It is time for the rest of the council to come clean with the public and stop the gaslighting and support the mayor's proposal to explore other locations. Email the city council and tell them to stop the BS and find another location for the parking garage.